are. And that brings me to my second subject to this, what we're going to talk about, but is empathy.
Yeah.
Is before I went through recovery, my empathy level was really low. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's because I never had it. It's because I never thought about it. Mm-hmm. But going through recovery and coming to meetings, my empathy has gone out the roof for people. And I think it's changed me profoundly as to be a better person and a more understanding person, to listen more than I talk. Because I'm the type of guy that's going to just talk too much, like I'm doing right now.
Empathy is something, because I've done so much of what other people have done that it's hard to judge them for it. I used for so long, and the way that I would justify using is I could find someone worse off than me.
Yeah.
Be like, well, at least I'm not doing that.
Right.
At least I'm not smoking crack. Or
well, we all do that.
Yeah.
On anything.
On anything.
Always.
And it kind of fuels whatever behavior that we're doing, and it prevents us from having to change, because I don't really need to change because this guy over here is doing so much worse than I am. So I must be doing okay. What happened with me personally is, as the drugs that I was doing got worse and worse, and as I found myself in kind of lower and lower places, I wasn't really able to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to get desperate, because how far am I going to go? How far down is this rabbit hole? Being in recovery gave me a way to be truly empathetic to other addicts. Because I can sit in a meeting and say, my name's Mark and I'm an addict.
Right.
And there's no contact, there's no qualifier to that.
Right.
It's not like, my name's Mark and I'm an addict and this is what I make and this is the job I do and this is the kind of family I have. It's just, I'm an addict. And so that really levels the playing field for anyone that's in recovery in a meeting like that.
I think that's what's special about those meetings, is as different as everybody is in there, there's a common denominator of why you're there, and it's your name and you're an addict.
And I have found great value in what other people say in the meeting, and I have no idea how much they have or where they're coming from, or it's like we're all in this same boat together and we've all got a bucket and we're all like trying to pour the water out to keep from sinking, but we're doing it together.
That's right.
And I can relate to what another person says. If someone walks in the room and they're like, man, I just really want to get high today, I can relate to that. Yeah. I can't judge them for it. It's impossible for me to judge them for it because I'm sitting in that room recovering from the same thing.
And to me, having empathy for people now is it's part of inspiring me too, because even if somebody comes to a meeting that is saying, I just want to get high today, or that said I used yesterday or did this, whatever made them come to the meeting that day, I want to hear that, because that inspires me. Because it's a miracle that we're all sitting in that room.
I pray that I would have the courage to go to a meeting the day after I use. I pray for that. Mm-hmm. And I'm inspired by the courage that it takes for anybody to walk into a room, a recovery meeting, or to show up at a counselor's office, or to reach out, because I'm terrible at reaching out for help.
Absolutely.
I don't like reaching out for help. And so I recognize the kind of conviction and resilience that it takes just to do that. Mm-hmm. And that gives me a lot of hope for myself, I guess. Like it inspires me. For me as a counselor, and this is the problem that I have, it's my own shortcoming, is that I start to get doing good, you know? Yeah. Like I'm all right. Mm-hmm. And doing good and feeling good about doing well is one thing. Being complacent and thinking that I've got it beat, or thinking that I've got it under control, or wanting other people to think that I have it under control. When someone walks into my office it's easy for me to lose that empathy sometimes because I'm going back to that thing like, well, you just need to do this and that. If you just did this and that, then you would get better. Like me, you should just be more like me.
Yeah. And it's so easy to get into that mode because we want to jump into do what I say. You know what I mean?
If you were just more like me, you would be better.
And if there's enough of that, if we do enough of that, what is it? We get to a point of apathy.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a complacency, and it's a very self-centered kind of complacency.
It is.
Which is like, I'm good enough to where, or I'm smart enough to have beaten this thing.
And I can fix you.
And yeah.
And boy, is that, how wrong is that?
That sets me up for complete failure, because what if I lose my humility when it comes to recovery? And I do relapse, God forbid, I relapse down the line and I fall hard. It is going to be really hard for me to come dragging myself after I've told a whole bunch of people that if they were more like me or just did what I said, that they would be okay.
And what's funny is you don't have to say those words, be more like me. It's our actions and the way we carry ourselves. That's what we're It's just oozing off of us.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I've done personally for that is try to understand it. I think empathy is understanding.
Yes.
I think it's understanding that comes from experience. It's also understanding of why people do the things that they do, because that humanizes someone. If you have a parent who has young children and they're using, and they have a CPS case, and all they have to do is stop using in order to keep their kids, and they keep using. It's easy to get frustrated with that person.
Right.
Because it is frustrating. Because you think about the kids, you think about who's being hurt by this person's actions. The more you understand about, for example, the nature of trauma and how it compels someone to behave the way that they're behaving, the less stigmatized that person can be. Mm-hmm. Or the more compassion you feel for that person, rather than just like, oh, you just need to put the drug down. And if I had $1 for every time someone told me that when I was using, well, why don't you just stop? It's like, wow, I never thought of that one, you know?
Man, really?
I know. Like, that's all I have to do?
Yeah. You know, in talking to guys that I'm coaching, I have got to constantly remind myself, don't tell them a solution, that I need to find out where I can help in a process that may lead to a solution down the road. But it is a process, and I've got to be trying to help suggest ways that they can jump aboard that process. And because that's the worst thing, is do what I say and then it doesn't work, and then they're done. You've lost them.
Yeah.
Because, well, you told me. You know, I mean, that's a tough place to be. And I have to really watch that, because I tend to, when the conversation gets a little quiet and they're not talking much, I want to start talking. And I cannot put myself in a position where I'm an authority figure and giving them a list of instructions and, hey, if you do A, B, C, that's your prescription, man. That you're gonna be good. It doesn't work that way in recovery.
No, and nobody wants a parent either, or a parental kind of
yes
attitude. It's hard. People in addiction have certain traits that make finding solutions difficult, because number one, they already have a solution.
Yeah,
they already have a solution,
a good one.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah, it works.
So anytime they know what to do if they're starting to feel.
Yep.
And it's an easier way. And human beings, we always look for the path of least resistance.
Amen.
And getting high is the path of least resistance. It's an easy thing to do. And people in addiction tend to be self-centered because they're probably isolated. They've had to protect themselves to survive in some way. So they're highly critical of other people. Because they're critical of themselves, and they don't trust. It's hard for someone in their addiction to trust another person because they've probably been hurt before.